Have you seen those Japanese square watermelons? How those like watermelons conform into a square space? These platyceriums, they have conformed to these square containers. So they told me that this is actually an alocasia flying squid. And there are these orchids too, grown out of a shell. How amazing is that?
Dear plant lovers, welcome to Pets and Plants Extravaganza show in Singapore. This is a plant market that targets hobbyists and gardeners. We come across a very diverse array of exquisite exotics, and you will not believe how affordable they are. Aroids, flowers, fruits, desert plants, terrarium plants, platyceriums, hoyas, they got it all. Fasten your seatbelt as this is a fast-paced adventure showing you the most interesting plants or the best deals. Now I do read all my comments and I'm always curious to know if there are any plants or topics here that spark your interest, so please leave your thoughts down below if you have any. I've also conveniently timestamped the episode by type of plant so you can skip to the parts that interest you the most, although I do wish for you to watch this from start to finish in the order of my edit. Let's begin.
Traveled to a few shows recently in Philippines, Indonesia, and China, but those tend to be more rare plant oriented. And as you can see here, this is more of a gardener, hobbyist kind of a setting. The first booth that we see here, this is going to be a terrarium setup with some kokodamas in the background. Crafted Identity is the name. This is cool here. This is worm casting fertilizer that's fresh harvested. I don't know how this works. I don't have time to read this now, but they have this bin, I guess, where they compost and then you can buy them. And they have a lot of interesting plants here in kokodama. I was talking to the gentleman right before this to let them know that actually kokodamas are not easy. There's a lot of workshops on how this is beautiful aglonema, by the way. And it's beautiful euphorbia as well. Forgot the name of this one, but it's quite beautiful. This variegation is nice. But anyways, with kokodama, the care is very, very different from your normal plants. And don't expect them to live forever in a kokodama setting. Or maybe someone can contradict me, but in my experience, plants here, they will obviously outgrow its kokodama at some point, in which time you might actually repot them, move them to a bigger kokodama. But this setting is not conducive to forever growth of the plants. These are all temporary situations. Pretty nice to look at, pretty good styling, but this is, again, not for beginners, if I may say so. And behind here, there's some interesting rare plants on discount. This is a Monstera laniata model for $10. This is actually a pretty good price. Some caladiums, scindapsus, some alocasias. And have the variegated Camphyria. One for $8, three for $20. So that's actually a pretty good price for this one here. And next to it, this is a piper, beautiful leaf. We haven't seen this in a while, but pipers are unstoppable and they're quite beautiful in a garden setting. I have one of these. Mine, I think the shape is a little bit more mature. It does become a tri-lobe type anthurium, but I quite like the juvenile form in this. This one called out to me. It's a climber, this one. You can see it's a vigorous climber. Very easy to propagate, easy to grow. This is another anthurium. I really like the way that they mounted this on this board. This begonia here is really, really quite interesting. They actually have a pot below, but it's grown up onto this board. This store really, really has captured my imagination. Look at this plant here. This is an plant ID, $12, which is not very expensive, I think. But this might be a fern or some sort. It is really, really quite beautiful. There's an assortment of plants that is quite unusual. And of course, the Everfresh, $18. This was quite sought after last year. I don't know how they're doing in the market this year. But some of the variegated ones of these have also been quite popular recently. In case you're wondering what a scindapsus might look like on a Hoya trellis, here's what it looks like. It's actually quite beautiful.
This is a Philodendron hederaceum Rio if I'm not wrong, but I want to show you these leaves that seem to have mutated. If you see strange leaves like this in our aroids, I recommend taking single node cuttings to propagate them and see if the mutation is stable. Sometimes they are, and they can sell for hundreds and thousands of dollars if you manage to stabilize it before anyone else does. As I'm editing this, I really regret not buying this plant and having a go at it myself. The Micromolaria vietnamensis is the only plant of its genus discovered in 2020 in Vietnam. It is considered critically endangered in nature, so I'm glad people are propagating it. You can tell from the beautiful bell-shaped flowers that this is a gesneriate family and closely resembles an African violet. The pattern on the fuzzy leaves are actually quite gorgeous. Curculico metallica is a gorgeous houseplant and it's got striking silvery green leaves with a metallic sheen. Simple research shows that it's a tropical, low-maintenance plant that thrives in low to medium light conditions and prefers consistently moist soil. Does this look like a palm to you or no? The Caesalpinia pulcherrima is actually a common garden plant and it can grow into a small tree, although I would say they look better as a bush if you keep pruning it. The wispy leaves look like fern and the whimsical dramatic orange blooms add so much charm. They usually come in green, but this is the variegated. Well, you look at this variegated papaya. The leaves are incredibly ornate and something tells me this is probably easy to grow. There's something about the Ficus squamosa leaves that feel elegant and expensive, like Prada. It is quite uncommon as a houseplant, but it can be an interesting choice for a tropical garden. It's naturally from tropical riversides of Southeast Asia and prefers bright, indirect light and consistently moist soil with high humidity. This is a Lea indica and it sports beautiful whimsical pink variegation and it's got fuchsia-colored stem and petiole unlike its green counterpart. Hailing from South America, this is an ornamental pineapple cultivar selected for its dramatic color, but when they mature they can indeed produce pineapple fruits, although I would bet that it probably don't taste very good. The bat piper is actually very challenging to grow in most environments, and they can only thrive in terrariums or greenhouses with optimal conditions.
In this booth, there's a mishmash of different plants. Actually, my favorite is Pichia. I really love these guys. But bromeliads, there's some stephanias, there's some succulents, caladiums. It's quite a, quite an eclectic collection of plants. The name of this booth is Taiho Orchids. And this one here is Nadina. Something tells me they might be a foreign company, maybe a foreign business, maybe even from Taiwan. But look at how interesting the leaves are on these. If you look at the details, fascinating. Even this crassula here are grown in a way that is looking more bonsai than anything else. This is a fascinating Medinilla. I've not seen this variety before. It doesn't have those pendulant little berries off the flowers, but it's got very elegant petals. Or maybe these are bracts. These are not the petals. Yeah, I think they're modified leaves. Beautiful leaves on these. It's got some olive plant, olive tree, and this says it's a Japanese kumquat. And since we're approaching Chinese New Year now, these are probably very popular plants for the time of year. This is quite fascinating to me because they're selling a lot of different pepper plants, capsicums and chili peppers and things like that. We won't get into the specifics of them, but here's the business, Pepper Patch SG. Feel free to reach out, and they do have ready-made pepper products there. And it seems to me like they have some variegated varieties of them as well. This shop here, it just says it's a soursop lady. Really interesting name for a shop name. So they have different types of fruiting trees over here, but they seem to be pushing these strawberries. I don't know if these are all the same varieties of strawberries, but in Singapore, there's a strong push for these food type crops, edibles in their apartment or apartment balconies. I see some kind of grapefruit and citrus here, and I've interviewed Bu Ida for Indonesian garden, and she said citrus plants are some of the easiest to grow in the garden. So it might be very interesting to see these. This is like a red longan. Look at how delicious that fruit looks. But this is what the plant looks like, and this is the flowers, if I'm not wrong. It's coming into life. Or maybe the berries. It could be the berries. If you see over here, there are some that are starting to sprout. This is really interesting. And there seems to be quite a bit of commotion here. A lot of people shopping, variegated monstera, I guess Thai constellations. I see some beautiful aglaonemas here. This is quite stunning. This is really pretty too. Look at this philodendron. It's gorgeous. This Thai constellation, just so you know, it's $35 for one, and for two, it's $60. Yeah, they seem to be quite popular here, surprisingly. There's a few people looking out for the Thai constellation. They make really good landscaping plants, actually. This is a Thai booth, and I'm really drawn to these alocasias. I'm gonna go through this one first. Really interesting leaves on this, but this one is a whole next level. What is this? I don't know if you see that. This is quite beautiful. Oh my gosh. Oh. So there are in fact quite a few Thai sellers here at this event. And a lot of monstera variegated. I don't know if this is creme brulee or something else. A lot of philodendron hybrids. I'm not in the market for them because so many of them are coming in and they all look at some point quite similar. But I really want to bring your eyes to this variegated ZZ Raven. This is about 130 Sing dollars each. And this is what the larger one looks like. How beautiful. It looks like someone seared that variegation into the plant. Quite interesting. This one has a more splash type variegation. I really am in the market for ZZ, for the Raven variegated, because I love to collect the ZZ plants. There are some interesting full mints here. $520 for this one, and this is mint variegated for $220. Not a bad price at all. And here down below you have some variegated whale fin sansevierias. They are quite slow growers. I have one that keeps dying back, so I just keep rescuing it, but I think it's just coming back to life. But they really are quite beautiful when you look down to it. They look like little brush strokes. So elegant. So this is Mama Treehouse from Thailand. They're also in most of the shows. This is a Monstera masterpiece. It's got like two leaves with one coming along the way, and this is I think 2,400 Sing dollars. And beautiful variegated gloriosum here. It looks almost like a tricolor. Around 400 Singapore dollars. Truly beautiful variegation. I hear the variegation on these is pretty sporadic. They're not very are. So it's really quite hard to find one that is extremely stable. If you look at the gloriosum, they do grow out of kind of everywhere. Their notes are not predictable like a typical philodendron. And in this, I believe, is the Adaba Poinsei variegated. I could be wrong. Beautiful, and the pink that you see is coming from the underside. The underside of this plant is actually extremely purple. So that gives the top variegation some wonderful pink, and a bit of yellow too. Nice complex variegation. And this, I think, is the Melanochrysum variegated, although it might be Mican. Although I would really blow my mind if a Mican leaf could be as big as that. But if you look closely at the variegation, how stunning is that? And this is probably a hybrid. I'm guessing maybe a dragon or a violin with a Adaba Poinsei. But that is just my wild guess. There's so many philodendron hybrids coming into the market now. It's impossible to detect most of them. This looks like a tricolor philodendron of some sort. El Choco with Bilite.
Yeah.
My first time seeing that, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
So you see, they took over the El Choco kind of like texture.
Mm-hmm.
However, you see the growing shape. The growing shape is like more like Bilite.
Yeah, and I'm guessing the Bilite is the variegated one.
Yeah,
El
it's the
Choco, we don't really have
Yeah.
variegated one.
So it's not variegated. It's only the Bilite.
Yeah.
When it grows mature, right, it will be something like this. Something like this, more splashy.
Okay.
And you can touch on the texture. It's very different.
Oh yeah, it's quite
Yeah.
It's neither nor. It's
Correct.
like something that's very different. Here are some anthuriums for you anthurium lovers. Now there's not that many anthuriums here. As I mentioned earlier, this market isn't exactly for collectors. It really is more for hobbyists. This one kind of stood out to me. Look at the new copper emergent leaf. That's really pretty. This one is actually the Forgetii crossed with Thraslerii and Luxurians. This is at Shinrin Plants. We mentioned earlier we won't see too many anthuriums, but this is a booth dedicated almost entirely to the anthuriums. Feel free to pause the screen and zoom in if something catches your fancy and reach out to them to ask for more. So I saw a bunch of people walk away with some of these throughout the show. This is a Clarinervium crossed with a King Clarinervium. So they told me that this is actually an Alocasia flying squid. How interesting. I've actually not seen this before. Oh my gosh, this is funny. Look at the leaves in detail. Yeah, I guess this is a kind of mutation because I don't think this kind of adaptation would occur in a hybrid. So, yeah, it's actually Alocasia mandalay. Interesting. This is something that I've not really encountered before. And look at the thick veins on these. And the leaves are actually quite thick. So I surmise that this might be a pretty easy grower. And Yongshen said that they are indeed pretty fast-free growers. Beautiful. And the underside is also very beautiful, if I can show you that. I don't know if it's going to show you under the light. And back there, this is the Alocasia Tiny Dancer. At the same event last year, we did vote at this. I think it won an award for something. It's a beautiful symmetrical pattern from up above. And this here too, this is a variegated Adansonii, but something about it. Interesting. Just really, really, really beautiful pots. And I guess this is the recommended plants to grow on the pots. A lot of caudiciforms. Queensland bottle tree, but this is a small one.
Young, right? They look like this. So
Oh,
when they actually grow to the mature size,
Yeah.
they actually had that like the 5-finger kind of.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, you have some very peculiar plants here.
Yeah.
So these are mostly like caudiciform. They're desert plants, correct? Or not all of them?
Most of them, all the connexes are from Madagascar.
Okay.
So yeah, so they're actually desert plants.
Beautiful, except the Stephanias back there. These are all from Southeast Asia. Yeah, from Southeast Asia. We saw this last time in the last show as well.
Is a Pachypodium windsori.
Okay.
He also has a reddish flower. It's actually a variation from Pachypodium maroni.
And does it branch out on its own or do you have to shape it? It branch out on its own, right?
Yeah, ranch is one.
Okay.
This one is Vaquera fasciculata. They're native from Mexico.
I see. So you're really big into the caudiciform type plant.
Definitely.
Interesting. How do they grow in Singapore? Do they do well for you here?
Yeah, because they like hot summer. Most of them are the summer growers. So by nature, they are quite adaptable to our climate.
Just don't
Even
water.
Indonesia, yes.
Just don't water.
Water once per 7 to 10 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, they like sunlight, so quite easy. It's
Pachypodium baronia.
it's an endemic species from Madagascar.
Okay.
So this one it has red color flowers. Different from most of the Pachypodium, they have a bright yellow flower. This
Yeah.
one red reddish color.
And the leaf is bigger for this, way bigger.
A bit waxy. Hobbyists EYL.
Okay, let's see.
This is a species from Somalia.
Okay.
Yeah. It's quite unique. Got this, is it like a bowl? It's a myrrh tree. It has a very strong.
Oh, so this is a myrrh.
Yes.
Okay.
This is a myrrh tree. This is a Boswellia scotrona from Scotland Island.
But they are frankincense.
Yeah, they are frankincense. This is a Boswellia elongata. It got very long leaves. This is a Boswellia bullata. It's also native to Scotland Island. Same for this Boswellia amero.
Interesting. Are these endangered or are these like
Yeah,
rare?
endangered. Those are the seed grown.
Okay,
grown
so you
from
can
seeds.
okay, so they do grow well from seed.
Yes.
Interesting. But slow, I'm guessing.
If the environment is right, they can grow quite fast.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, some
That's
people like grow them on the raised bed.
Yeah.
Like 1 year, even 2 years can grow actually quite deep trunks.
Oh, good. Maybe people should pick up the seeds because
Yes.
we need to conserve them outside of their habitat.
Definitely. Because this one, they are protected, so it's also not possible to collect those wild one.
Right.
This wild one is so gigantic.
Yeah, but they look nice as a small plant too.
Correct. Because the leaves are quite unique.
Yeah. Here in the amplified cactus, there are some really interesting cacti. Here are some astrophytum, really beautiful selected. Some crested gymnocalycium. I'm not an expert per se, but I want to give this a quick look. By the time this episode comes out, there should be an episode on cacti in New York City where you can learn more of the different varieties. But they're so diverse. Areocarpus here. I'm starting to be able to identify some of them, but I'm not very good at keeping them alive. There's some more desert plants over here, but this one really struck out to me. Look at this. This looks like a dragon that's meandering around the different pots. Quite something, this plant. It's coming from this pot that says it's $20. So this is the bit of a vine that's coming out of it. It truly looks like a dragon. In case you're curious, this is 190 Singapore dollars each for a baby one. The larger one, this one is 350. They take a long time to size up into this. Wow, fascinating variety of plants here. And there's a Caria madagascarensis plant. It's really quite stunning. I've always wondered if you could take a bit of a cutting and just propagate the end of the stems. You probably could. This is a really quite an alluring plant. I don't know if you noticed something interesting about these platyceriums. Have you seen those Japanese square watermelons? How those watermelons conform into a square space? These platyceriums, they have conformed to these square containers and now they look square. How fascinating is that? There's a myriad here of mounting media for the platycerium, and the media in the platycerium world is just as important as the plant itself. This is Fern House Kauhu from Thailand. I do run into them in nearly every shows. They do a lot of ferns, and I guess sometimes we forget that platyceriums are in fact ferns. This seems to be a kind of a hybrid. When you're buying into platyceriums, it's important to look into whether they are sporelings or whether they are actual clones, because they sometimes produce stolons, that is exact clones of the parents, and that is sometimes what you want. But I can see here, these are all different hybrids. And for platyceriums, hybrids are really interesting because you mix them in a bag and you never know what you're gonna get. Sometimes you might even get two of the same parent plant. Because the way that the platyceriums are hybridized, the babies actually kind of mate with one another after they become gametophytes. So a really interesting way to hybridize them. That's why you get so many different forms. I think Taiwan really dominates the market when it comes to platyceriums, and also Thailand. But I think Taiwan really is probably the #1 grower and breeder of these platyceriums. This one here I've never seen before. It says Platycerium Mount Lewis. I guess it's on their main table. I guess it's one they are trying to promote. They do have this interesting lanky type leaves. So if you're into this sort of sappy look, this could be for you. Interesting, I've not really seen a form like this before. And the Platycerium Jenny from TC is coming in at 50 Sing dollars each. These are the babies that are on sale. I remember covering this about 2 years ago and it was so expensive at the time. I'm gonna quickly pan to show you some of the varieties that they have. Feel free to pause the screen. The names are each on the cards. And then if you pan down, there are actually 3 tables of them. Interesting. I'm starting to get my confidence for these because I'm starting to get some of the baby ones. And they're also wall plants, so they don't take up a lot of the ground space or the shelf spaces. Pretty interesting. They have some interesting varieties that I've really not seen before. This one says is something Madagascar dwarf. They really have a next level Platycerium going on here. Not the same ones that I see commonly in these shows. A lot of beautiful Tillandsia. This one is coming into bloom. Hello. Look at how beautiful that is. I don't think these bracts are even fully engaged yet. The flowers are actually coming out of these beautiful, colorful bracts. Some interesting curly ones too. Probably a mutation of some sort. Or maybe a species. I see the tag on there. This one here just sitting pretty by itself. This is the ID. I think this is a hybrid potentially. Maybe I'm guessing with the Xerographica and something else, but I'm not sure. Yes, if you look around here, my gosh, there's so many varieties of them. If you actually separate them one by one, you took it, in your hand, which I'm not about to do, you could see the beauty, and if you take your time with it, some beautiful forms. This one, it says the Plant People, the name of the booth, and they do a lot of Tillandsias. Really cute. Look at this. This is very wispy. Andriana XL size 12. This one is really interesting too. There's a lot of these that I have not seen before. $7 didn't seem too expensive. So, oh, look at these pots. Oh my gosh. It's also a really nice display. This one says Orchid Hoya Singapore SG, and actually a shop that I'm really interested to check out. It's been crowded with people the whole day, but the first thing that caught my eye are these like Hoya in a shell, one for $6, two for $10. Pretty good price. This is a multiflora grown in a shell like this. How cute is that? And all these these are cardinals. This is a Ripsalis. How amazing! It's grown in a shell. Look at this Hoya too. It's got tiny little flowers. This is also another Hoya. Fascinating flowers indeed. This is super fascinating to me. This, I think it's a Hoya Bella, if I'm not wrong. Even Sansevierias are on these shelves. Totally whimsical. That's a better view of the Hoya multiflora. I think for me, these are some of the ones that are very generous with flowering. Yes, we haven't seen the Dischidia rustifolia variegated in a while. So this is one, and I really adore them. They're such common plants, but easy to grow. And this one from a shell, this is actually really quite fascinating. And there is orchids too, grown out of a shell. How amazing is that? This is really quite fascinating. I believe this must be a Pachyclada variegated. Oh my god, and this little Hoya, look at the tiny little blooms. Here's my pinky finger for comparison. This might be the Hoya Sunrise. They're just such peculiar plants, grown in such an interesting manner. There's so many lush Hoyas here. We usually see them sold in like tiny little cuttings. So it's really nice to see a whole shop full of them, and some of them are also in bloom. Look at this one here. It's got very fuzzy flowers. That one's in bloom as well. $16. Don't know a lot of these Hoya names actually. Not seen these varieties before. So fascinating. Look at, I see like 3, 4, every single Hoya that is in here are in bloom. My gosh. This is a beautiful emergent leaf from this Hoya. Wow. And the shopkeeper's super busy with customers, so I don't know what this Hoya is, but it grows pendulum like this in two cents. And this is so beautiful. Let me see. Oh, that one's a whole basket. Do you have the name of this?
Yeah.
Oh, it's on the name. Oh, Patella Pink. Oh, nice. Yeah, this is beautiful. My gosh, look at the flowers too. Very amazing. Yeah. Thank you. Wow. Yeah. The flower, I think, comes in twos or something. Yeah, it comes in twos and pairs.
It's nice. Yeah.
This look like little bats brooding. How cute, look at that.
Yeah, how do you get the Hoyas to bloom? Some of your tips.
They need sunlight is the best. Morning sunlight.
Okay.
And depend on what kind of Hoya.
Are they all?
Some type every time bloom, but sometimes another type needs more long time
I see.
bloom.
But
So
if that
the most important is sunlight.
not fertilizer.
fertilizer just support for them bloom better. Not decide they got bloom or not bloom.
I think this is a Hoya matiporensis or something. Forgot the name right now, but it's got a peculiar shape leaf. So the lady that you heard earlier, she's the owner. She's Vietnamese and she speaks fluent Chinese. And I think her passion for Hoyas really showed through here.
This is a booth from Thailand and they have a fantastic selection of plants that I love. First of all, you're drawn to this plethora of colorful begonias. Now, most of these are actually hybrids and finding their specific names are nearly impossible, so you kind of just have to enjoy them for what they are. And then, of course, they have Hoyas, the classic Hoya carrii that's variegated here, and some cute Ripsalis. They really do give you that jungle vibe, and propagating them by cutting is incredibly fun. Here's my favorite genus, the Dischidia. This might actually be a hybrid of the Pactinoides and Imbricata or one of those other combinations, but you can correct me. This feature here is called the bullata and forms when conditions are right. They are actually homes for ants, providing shelter, and in return, the ants provide a ton of nutrients. There are some aerial roots inside these bullatas to absorb that yummy nutrient. And here's another beautiful Dischidia hybrid. While these are hanging now, the leaves usually climb up surfaces in nature and provide shelter for ants that clamber up the vines. This is the Hoya caudata from North Sumatra, and they sport beautiful camouflage pattern. They're distant cousins to Dischidias, so they behave in the same shingling manner, and they also have symbiotic relationship with ants. And this Dischidia we've actually not seen in a while, the ovada. I love the bit of sun-stressed red on it, and a lot of fake plastic plants are modeled after this one. These are Numolaria variegata, extremely common in Thailand, and you can find them in public trees and spaces. They're incredibly fun to propagate. This is the Dischidia ruskifolia variegated, and also known as the million hearts. Most Filipino would be glad to know that these are endemic to the Philippines. This is the Hoya Wayedii variegata, and this blue color on the shelf is actually an amazing contrast to this plant. People who collect Hoyas are also some of the most giving and sharing, as cuttings are easily shared between growers.
Now, I don't know about you, but this is my first time seeing a plant vending machine. So I ran into Fendi from Little Botany. We have an episode filmed at his nursery a while back. I'm gonna link that up above. So this is a vending machine. It's next to like an orange juice and drinks machine on the other side. So there are some plants here that are apparently for sale. I don't really know how it works. Here are some of the prices. Not cheap by any means, but they are potted in a really interesting manner. Like this was Stefano over here. So I don't know what happens here when you scan and you make the purchase. I guess one of the doors unlock and you can, pick up whatever's inside it. I guess this would make pretty interesting office gifts and things like that. Some Sansevieria. This is a dwarf samurai. Interesting. Let me know down below what you think of this.
Singapore is a garden city not only by appearance, but also in the heart and soul of the average Singaporean. Despite being surrounded by lush public greenery, many Singaporeans are determined to have their own slice of green in their homes and living spaces. I have a few theories on why there are so many plant growers in Singapore compared to neighboring countries. Singapore's education standard is among the highest in the world, and the environmental awareness is taught from an early age. Singapore has one of the highest disposable incomes in Asia, allowing people to spend more on hobbies such as plant collecting. With limited large-scale agriculture, Singapore faces fewer conflicts between farming biosecurity and ornamental plant imports, resulting in relatively efficient import regulations. Strategically located between major economies, Singapore serves as a key regional hub for plant trade and logistics. The government invests heavily in greenery to enhance livability and tourism, regularly importing plants for public spaces and landscape projects. The garden city identity is part of Singapore's collective consciousness and a source of national pride. Alright, we're gonna leave it there for now. Don't forget to let me know in the comment section if you have any thoughts on any plants or topics in today's episode. For most of you, just watching this all the way to the very end means the world to me. But if somehow you're doing well in this crazy economy and wish to go above and beyond to support the channel financially for as small as a cup of coffee a month, you may do so in two ways. One, you can join my Patreon at patreon.com/SeanFromOnlyPlants, or you can join as a YouTube member. Simply open any of my videos from a computer browser, and next to my channel name you will see that join button. I guess I'm really gonna let you go this time. I will see you next week. Take care now. Bye.